And one of the stories that I have in the book is about him.
And she has what they call a yodel. So when the doorbell goes, oh my gosh, the sound. You are the noisiest dog I've ever had.
The animals in my life right now is, believe it or not, dolphins. It's always fun to swim with a dolphin. You're just swimming along. I love to swim. And suddenly this big gray beast just swims by you, and each time it's startling and it's fun and it's exciting, and sometimes they'll look you right in the eyes, you're that close, and sometimes they'll almost bump into you. But if I take other people with me, it's even more fun to see people, their first experience. And most people, I would say, have never swum with a dolphin like that before. So we often, when we have people visiting, or our children or grandchildren, we go down to the beach at 6:30, 6 in the morning, and we invite them to swim with the dolphins, and we're never disappointed.
I have a rather marvelous dog named Lily, and she is not little and not very feminine looking, but she has an amazing heart and is one of the most loving, devoted dogs I've ever owned. So Lily is my companion, and she's very special.
Eva does put seed out for the backyard birds, and occasionally I have to go up there and chase off a hawk.
There is a cat that belongs to my neighbor, and every morning at 5:30, when my brother and I go walking, she's outside waiting. I don't think anything happens around here without her knowledge. She rules the roost, and we adore her.
I tell that part of the story about how Weber came to Washington. And then when we arrived here, my daughter had a dog, Jirachi, and so they had to make friends, and they did, and they played together a lot at the beginning. They don't so much anymore. I guess they're both getting older, and that's way too ambitious.
Is a 4-year-old filly. Her name is Sugar, at least that's what I call her. I've only had her for a couple of months. This is Freckles, the faithful farm dog. If you read that chapter, you'll see how he helped us so much on the farm.
Thank you. Those were good. And now I want to ask you something else. If you've had time to peruse the rest of the book, did you find one that was a favorite of yours, and why?
I really love your introduction. That ties it all together.
I enjoyed Susan Jenkins' story about Bobo the hedgehog. I read everything she puts on Facebook, even her recipes. I also really liked Dennis Ellingson's story about his 300-pound ram named Bubba, who liked to sit on people's laps.
I haven't found one yet that I didn't like. One that stuck out was the very first one about the trick dog. It was really fun to read. Dogs can be very smart, and they can learn things very well, and then they can just kind of blow you off and say, I know what you want, but I'm gonna do this.
I would say Netta and the Sheep Pony. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. The author writes so vividly with those scenes. I really got into it, and I could just picture what she was writing, and the children and the sheep, and it was just really delightful.
But I must admit that the story of Bogar, a dog in the Holocaust, really spoke to me. Living in Israel, we hear a lot about the Holocaust, and it's very real. Many of the stories about dogs are the faithfulness of dogs and the closeness of dogs, but to me, the story about Bogar and this family and what they went through, and then it's a miracle of how they found him again, and he could live with them again.
One of my favorites is one by John Buzzard called Rocky II. It's about his German Shepherd and the connection he had with his dog and all the things that happened with them, but he says it so well. It's a great read.
The wet-nosed therapy dog, because my wine was the dog-nosed miracle. So there were two of us who thought we needed to talk about our dog's noses.
I loved Nancy Swihart's chapter, Prayer Meeting with the Cows. I was charmed by that chapter. I thought her writing was just absolutely superb. And now I want to read everything that she's written. I just loved her portrayal of being a little girl and giving this Sunday school sermon, or the sermonette, or whatever she was doing with the cows. And then she would ask them, does everybody understand? You know, and it was just so cute.
A dog-nosed miracle. And I thought that was just so cool that that dog found its way home, and that this was something that this young man had prayed about. I think his name was Eric, for such a long time.
And then there's one by John that actually made me cry, because it was about putting down his old dog and that decision. And this past year I had to put down a horse I'd had for 19 years, and I trained her, and she was the Old Faithful, and she taught me so much about patience and everything else. And so that was a very hard thing for me. And so when I read his story, it was just like, oh my gosh, that's so hard.
One more question for us all. What did you especially like about this book? It's the whole book itself. The experience of reading it, the experience of being part of it, and what do you think it has to offer to readers?
It's like, oh, just all this camaraderie, these people that have had maybe not the same experience, but similar experiences to me.
The idea for the animals in our lives is a brilliant idea, because when I went to a local library 2 days ago, and I showed the librarian and I asked her if I could donate a copy, she says, everybody loves animals. And I think that they do.
I just find the diversity of the stories, the uniqueness of the stories, speaks to the uniqueness of God's creation, including us as human beings.
Excited about this project because it was just a fun way to bring us all together with our stories. So thank you for doing this.
It seems all the writers involved understand that as humans, God has made us the caretakers of the earth, or all of his creations. And that certainly includes animals.
It was just a chance to relax and read stories of God's creatures and our interactions with them. Great idea.
And each one had such a wonderful message.
I'm already recommending it to so many people, even people who are not believers. I think they're going to find stories that will ring true with them. I really believe that animals are sent, that God provides them to give us healing and joy. So we all need healing and we all need joy, especially now in this world.
Thank you for joining us on this.
All together, it makes quite a collection. If you're thinking about buying the book, thinking about reading the book, I hope you will, and join this community of animal lovers.